This is Julia with iCadenza, and I'm here with Arden Kaywin, who is an indie pop singer who has been getting a lot of attention lately, and her songs have appeared on ABC, NBC, MTV, and a number of other networks, and we're really excited to speak with her today. So hello, Arden.
Hi, thanks for having me.
My first question is, how did you first get started singing?
Oh my goodness. I actually was one of those kids who was just like always wanting to be performing and dancing and, you know, like wear a tutu to first grade. And like, it was not enough for me to just kind of be normal. Like I always had to have music on. So I think my parents picked up on that and they put me in piano lessons and they put me in ballet class. And both of those things were, I adored. And, I was in children's choirs and, that kind of thing. And then I started, because I was in dance and I was kind of musical, I started doing a lot of children's musical theater and summer camps that had to do with, performing arts. And that's where I took my first voice lesson. I want you, I need you, I love you. And as I got older and my voice matured, my voice teacher, who was a classically trained singer, heard in my voice, I guess, something that kind of led her to think that I could do classical music. And so she took me in more of a direction of opera and classical voice as I got older, 16, 17, 18. And then I went to college at Oberlin Conservatory, which was a classical conservatory. So actually starting my musical progression has been very kind of musical theater to classical and then pop. So it's been a pretty broad spectrum. But if it weren't for the whole musical theater thing, I don't think I would have started taking voice lessons or singing in any real way at that age. So,
what do you think is the value in classical music? Does it share anything with pop?
Well, the thing that it shares with pop is that it has the same tendency to pull at your emotional heartstrings. It's just that generally the younger generation is just not exposed to it. They're not given the tools to understand it, so they think they don't like it when they've never even really experienced it. I had growing up arts education in public school. We had music class. We had, kids in most public schools across the country today are just not exposed to it. So they think they don't like it. They just don't know it,
But even while you were pursuing opera, and you actually have sung in incredible places, including San Francisco Opera, you were always interested in pop, right? So how did you end up making that transition from opera to pop?
I basically did a total 180 in my life. I love singing opera and I love the art form. It's incredibly intellectual and it's a challenge. And opera is the kind of thing where if you can do it, generally you do it because so few people can do it. And in my case, I was doing pretty well with it. I sang classically until I was 25. And I sang with Opera Theater of St. Louis, San Francisco Opera, Brooklyn Academy of Music, Aspen Music Festival, a bunch of places professionally, and just started to get really burnt out because I never stopped to think if I wanted to do it. I was just doing it because I was good at it and I could progress easily. I got roles. I got into to the major conservatories for undergrad and for grad, and without stopping to think, how much do I really want to do this for my career and for my life?
And what is your process like when you're approaching songwriting? Do you get just some kind of melody in your head and go from that, or how do you start?
I don't really have one process. It really depends on a couple things. I mean, I write by myself. I also have collaborators who I co-write with. Sometimes I'll start with a kind of melodic idea. Like I'll sit down at the piano and I'll find a little nugget that I'll expand upon, and I won't really have any idea lyrically or emotionally what I want to write about. I know I like this kind of melodic motion, and so I'll just hum da 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 like a vocal line. That song came with this first. trying to find a melody above that. And then I thought, well, why don't I just sing that as the melody? And then I don't know where the rest came from, but yeah. So that's on the edge. But I've also had other experiences where it's exactly the opposite, where like I'll sit down with a co-writer and we'll be like, what's going on in your life? What's going on in my life? Like, what do we want to talk about? You know, do we want this song to be an internal thing, or do we want to be commenting on something in the world? Like, and we come up with a whole, there's a song on my record called The Elephant in the Room. It's the title track to the record. We wrote, me and my co-writer Zeev wrote as a complete poem, basically. And we hadn't sat down at the piano, we had no melody, we had nothing. We just wrote lyrics. And then, you know, I sat down at the piano and he took up his guitar and we, you know, found the song from there. So I don't think that, I like that I don't have an absolute definite process, because it can lend itself to however I'm feeling like working in a given day, you know? And that's okay, because that's where the song wants to be. Can't make it what it's not.
Do you have any advice for aspiring songwriters or singers? What do you wish you had known when you were just starting out?
That the music business changes on a dime. The music business, when, you know, so say there's a 20-year-old aspiring singer-songwriter out there now playing in coffee houses and playing at whatever. The music business as it exists today will not be the same in 2 years. And it will not be the same in 2 years from then. And you think that you've got it figured out. You think, okay, I know that if I play in these places and I make contact with these people and have my songs on these TV shows, and then I'll get to the next level, you know. And once you do all that, and then in a year or two, because the business is in trouble. I mean, you know, people don't pay for songs anymore. People download for free. People, you know. The business has changed so much, even in the 6 years that I've done it, that I would say to an aspiring songwriter, be constantly in touch with how the landscape is changing. You know, when I was first coming up, I didn't have a day job. I mean, because I had enough money from TV licenses and from selling songs on iTunes to, you know, like, basically equal the crappy $15 an hour day job that I had, you know, so I quit. And I had plenty of money to do that. You couldn't do that today. So now the landscape is so very different that you have to tour. The only way that you can make money and sustain yourself as an independent artist is you have to get on the road.
How did it feel for you when your first song, Me With Me, I think was the first song that was actually featured on television on NBC? How did it feel for you when you heard your song?
It was very cool because it was on this show called Related, and the scene was the teenage girl and her friends are having a slumber party. And so they rush into her bedroom and they're like all giggling, and they take out like the boom box and they put it down and they press play, and it's my song that comes out. And, you know, the whole scene has got my music then in the background, and then they're quiet, and at the end the music like swells, and you know, it plays it out. And I remember thinking to myself, like, because TV is really, you know, it's not about the music, really, TV. So I remember thinking to myself, like, am I the only one who's hearing this? Like, are people just watching the dialogue? Is anybody even, like, paying attention to the fact that my song is playing out of the boom box? And I was like, probably not. I'm like, but that's okay, you know, because that's how TV goes. Like, you just never know how they're going to weave your song in there. But it is a sense of accomplishment, you know, that out of thousands of songs, you know, that my song is the song that they picked, you know, to go with the moment, to go with the drama.